Welcome to another episode of the 1 Year No Beer podcast. Today, I'm absolutely honoured and excited to be joined by a fellow Scotsman, so automatic legendary status. I do hope for all our international guests out there that you can understand John, and assuming you can understand me, John's accent is a little bit thicker than mine, as you'll see. But if you don't understand what John says, you can always just look at the show notes, because I know you do that. But I'm very, very excited to be joined by John today. John is a renowned expert in addiction treatment and the founder of NAD plus therapy. As the current director of Rehab Clinics Group, one of the UK's leading addiction treatment providers, he's dedicated his life to helping individuals overcome addiction and find fulfillment. Join us as John shares his expertise and insights into the power of NAD plus therapy in the field of addiction recovery. So, John, thank you so much for joining us on the podcast. How are you today?
I'm very well, thank you, Rory, and thanks for your really, even though it's probably exaggerated introduction. Yeah, I'm very well today.
Want to big up the big man. We got in touch through your wonderful organization, NAD plus therapy, which I've been looking deeply into the research. And once we started, I was talking to your colleague, lovely Nikki, and she was just like, "Hey, we want to come out and see you guys." And I was like, "Okay, that's cool." And so you hopped on a plane, shot yourself out to Mallorca together. Took Jen and I out for dinner, and I just got to hear all your story and the background, and honestly filled me full of respect, admiration for the work that you've been doing over decades and decades, and I just knew I had to get you on the podcast. So thank you for that and for coming on the podcast.
Yeah, well, it's good to come and visit you in the beautiful island of Mallorca. No, when we first seen your platform, your 1 year no beer, I'd never really seen any website like that or anything like it at all. I just thought, wow, this is great what the guy's doing. And, I thought what we're doing, we set up a match. So, but it was great being with you all there. I really thoroughly enjoyed it, even though it was a pretty swift visit. I had a great time. Pleasure to meet you and the rest of your team.
Well, thanks for coming over. So, John, why don't you give us a bit of background? You've had your own issues with alcohol in the past. You've addressed those, and now you've created organizations to help many, many people. So, huge respect to you. But you actually started off life as a jockey, and not a disc jockey, but a horse jockey, just for clarity. Although you could have been both.
Way back, I'd have to take everyone back to the very early 70s, 1971, I believe, when I left school at the age of 15 at that time. And I had no great formal academic qualifications. In fact, I had no qualifications at all. But at that time, what I did have in my favour was I was very small and very light, like 5.5 stone, and I was very, very, very small at that time. So I decided, after talks with my father, who was a bookmaker at the time, that maybe an opportunity would best be for me in horse racing. To be honest with you, I'd never even been near any horses apart from donkeys in Blackville Beach. But, it meant that I had to leave Scotland and head towards England to a town called Newbury, where it's one of the big training centres we have in the UK. So I decided this was worth me pursuing. In fact, I was really quite excited about this thought. So my father drove me all the way from Glasgow to Newbury and dumped me in this racing state post. And I was running by an extraordinary guy called Major Peter Nelson. And it was one of the top stables in the whole of the UK. I was quite fortunate to be placed in there as an indentured apprentice jockey, where I had to learn the craft of horse management and obviously race riding and so forth. It was very disciplined, and it was a great education. for the time I was there, really looking back, it was one of the most exciting periods of my life. So when I landed there, it was only maybe some weeks I really kind of loved what being there and learning. Never took any academia, which was great for me, and got really passionate about being an apprentice. Of course, at that time, being away from your parents at the age of 15, there is no parental influence on your behaviour. And most of the other lads who worked in this establishment, I'd be the youngest, so they would be maybe 17, 18 years old. And of course, every evening after we finished work, they would head to the local village pub where there were a pool table and one of these little football games. So I started to tag along with the older lads, and as they're having pints of lager, I'm having half-pint lager shandies. But that was my real introduction to social drinking. And it was every night, if you had the money, that's where you went. You know, when you start drinking with older people, and then, you know, at the weekends they'd start drinking vodka. And in the 1970s, it was vodka and lime juice and vodka. So the weekends, sort of episodic drunkenness was in that period of my life. And that was my real introduction to alcohol and its obvious effects on you. I mean, I spent some years there, but then things change as they do, and I started to grow a bit taller, and I was no longer suitable. Eventually, I became a professional licensed racehorse trainer here in Scotland. I ended up having some financial backing, and I had 30 horses in training. I was training some winners very early on, and I was in the newspapers as the new rising trainer here in Scotland. And of course, this career shift and the success of that was great. It was progressing well, but so was my involvement with alcohol. And in fact, by this time was alcoholism, where I ended up just losing everything as a result of alcohol. I lost all the business, all my associates, and even my family. I lost everything. And I came from champagne with a cigar to being on the streets in Glasgow, asking people for £1 to buy a drink on the streets. You know.
So John, that's a very big step, going from shooting up rising star, building a successful business.
Yeah.
What was the milestones of the drinking? So it was stress, dealing with stress, coping, but also celebration, partying. Like, describe that a bit more, and then.
Yeah, well, I mean, I'll just give you a very snapshot of the decades. I mean, it was decades. This took me from leaving school to becoming a trainer to losing everything. So it was decades, and it was decades of lifestyle involvement with alcohol, and a very alcohol-friendly business I was in. You know, so owners would come and see their horses more or less every day, and the first thing they would do is bring a bottle of brandy or a bottle of whiskey with them, and I would be sitting there talking about what the future of the horse. But it was a drinking, boozing session, to be honest with you. But this took me years and years of experimentation and consistent use of alcohol. But my first serious withdrawal from alcohol was right about 1982, I would say, when I distinctly remember that feeling of anxiety that I had when I was a kid was multiplied 1,000,000 times when I woke up one morning and literally halfway during the morning, my whole world turned inside out. I didn't know. In fact, I thought I was actually entering into a state of madness. I had no idea what was happening with me. Reality seemed to be very unreal. I'm so confused and panic, absolutely sheer panic. But I managed to get myself through the day. But in the evening, when I picked up that drink like I would normally do, the sense of normality it gave me was unbelievable. So then I started to become a functioning alcoholic. I could never plan my day without being anywhere where if I was going somewhere, I would either take a drink with me or I would plan where is the nearest place where I could obtain a drink. So then my involvement with alcohol became a need.
Exactly. I'm talking to people right now, successful business owners, people who've got big businesses right now, who are right there. They're right there right now.
Yeah.
And they're on calls with us and they're trying to work out whether they need to do this or whether they can do it on their own, or they're at that place. So this is really important what you're saying right now, because what happened over the coming part? Like, why did it keep progressing, and how quickly did that progression come that it got into you losing everything?
Well, I mean, the acceleration and the progress, the pathway to dependency and alcohol, it's a geometric progression. So it doesn't progress like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So you can't track it the same. It's a geometric. So it jumps from 4 to 16 to 8, and before you know it, you're on your knees. I learned to be a professional alcoholic, a functional professional alcoholic. You learn to be an alcoholic. And it took me 40 years to be a professional alcoholic. But then the need for alcohol becomes more and more, and it shows up in your behaviour, and people start to notice the drunkenness, the slurred speeches at meetings that you're attending, business meetings, where you probably need a little drink before you go. People start, the tolerance of alcohol builds up where you need more to have the same effect. And they take more, you end up much less in a drunken state where it's very obvious to everybody around you, apart from yourself.
So the warning signs are coming from other people more than they're coming from you.
Well, I think so. And one of the things that interests me, it's quite simple. If you think you have a problem with alcohol, then you do have a problem. Right now, I'm in a business these days where we have 4 residential alcohol units here in Scotland. Now, for most people, that's quite severe when it gets to the stage that you need to be in a residential rehab where you need professional medical detoxes. I mean, that's on the serious scale of things. But when you're a functional alcoholic, or if you think that alcohol's having a negative effect on your life, now that's the time. The only regrets I have that I never landed on a website like your web. If we had digital information at the time, I'd have scooted around the internet like people do today. Hopefully I would have found your website. And that is a good introduction to talk to other like-minded people. The time it got to me, I was forced to be in a 12-step AA meeting. Now that's pretty daunting stuff for somebody to think about. Even today, some clients have a resistance to a 12-step meeting because of the daunting experience that may give you. I mean, look, a website like yours is a platform for like-minded people to have a general discussion about it. I mean, some people can actually achieve that. I choose the life of abstinence where I just don't drink. And I'm experienced, right now, I'm in a good place for myself at my age. Never had a drink for 23 years. There's no need for me to drink any longer. Absolutely no need for it. So the way things are today, you don't have to wait until you lose everything. This is why I love what you're doing, because my biggest regret is I did not need to lose everything.
Yeah, you got me emotional because that is it's everything that I'm trying to do. It's the whole purpose of my life, and I wish you had stumbled on the site, but I'm glad that you've had the impact that you've had, and all of those other things. We're going to get onto that once I compose myself. I think there's going to be a lot of people who need to hear what you've just said there, John. As I said, I'm talking to some guys now, some people now, who I know are at that point. It could really destroy everything for them. And I think you're right. While you have the consciousness, while you have the ability, while you have the cognizance and the everything around you, the resources, right, that you can to prevent this, take action now. Do it now, because very soon you may not have the resources, you may not have the cognition, you don't know. You said it's geometric. Tomorrow, this could have jumped to 99 from 45.
Yes.
So, super powerful what you've just said, and I think a lot of people will resonate with that. So, well, it did jump to 100 for you, and you said over decades, but tell me a little bit about the experience of when it had got really, really bad, and I think how did you change? What changed you?
It got that bad, like I say, where every day I was in a terrible state. I was about 6 stone. I was probably, to be quite frank, I was probably 6 months away from dying with alcohol. I was on the street asking people for money, eating, living in fresh air and alcohol. And, I believe that this, people did try to help me through the years. My own father, mother, my own family, friends. I mean, everybody did try to help you, but, I just kept pushing them away. And, I looked around for the enemy as an excuse, but the enemy was I. And then one day of just absolute terror of withdrawal, well, I even contemplated suicide, because the effects and the withdrawal on me, the sheer panic and anxiety was absolutely crippling. And it was every day. And I needed a drink every 20 minutes. I would get into this severe withdrawal. So eventually, I went to my father and asked my father to help me, because at this time I was absolutely desperate, and it was through the gift of desperation that he went to the family doctor, and I got an emergency admission into the local psychiatric hospital for a 2-week detox. So, and I went there willingly. I went drunk in the morning. I was admitted. That was the last day I ever had a drink. The day I went to that psychiatric hospital, and I spent a couple of weeks. I got dried out in there, and that was it. And I started eating better. But I believe that the guys in the white coats, the psychiatrists, and all these other psychological therapists and psychologists were going to tell me what I had done to myself. And of course, that never happened. Oh God, and I was grateful. It was an NHS detox, and I was very grateful for that. But I never got any information, and nobody could tell me anything about alcoholism. Told me I could never go back to horse racing. So I knew that the environment, that horse racing would be absolutely disastrous for me. So I decided that I would start educating myself. So every day I would visit the Mitchell Library, a reference library we have here in Glasgow, and I'd start reading books about alcoholism. Because I was suffering from the same condition, a lot of the information, even I had always had an encyclopedia next to me so I could understand some of the words. So I studied the brain and what alcohol actually does to the human brain. And that gave me a great deal of insight. And I went from neuroscience into the area of psychology. And then I moved from psychology to the area of spirituality. So every day I would be the first in that Mitchell Library, and I would be the last one out. And it was like, I was in there for about a good year and a half. I would pack myself in this library. Now, unknown to me at this time, that the effect of being in that library in a stress-free environment was therapeutic to me. So I liked being in that environment. The same as I used to like being in pubs and around drink, because I felt good when I was in that space where there was silence. I was doing something productive and there was no stress attached to it. So that period was like something probably these days they have in a university course. So I learned a great deal, I got educated in there, and eventually I learned what I'd done to myself, that my biological set point to deal with stress had massively reduced by 50%. So I had to change my environment to suit my new tolerance to stress and things like that.
Stress, lifestyle.
Yeah. Alcohol will lead to a condition where you have the inability to deal with stress. Other people deal with without any problem.
People don't realize, right? They're building these successful businesses and they're like, oh, it's just getting more and more stressful. Is it? Is it, or is your ability to deal with stress?
Okay. I mean, wow. I mean, what a question you've put out there, is it?
Yeah.
Is it really? Or is it your inability that's broken all the time? Well, you know what? You know, a lot of people can tolerate a fair bit of stress, and so that we could talk a lot around that.
Yeah.
So I'd let probably your viewers think about that. See, that's a good question.
Amazing, the study and the research. I used to live around the corner from the Mitchell Library, and amazing that you've went deep into all of that research. And tell me how you then moved into helping people in this space.
What I was really doing, I learned myself and educated myself basically on the psychobiology of alcoholism. And I felt that I had a story to tell about the psychobiology of alcoholism. And I thought, when I went to that psychiatric hospital, the guys in the white coats, meaning the professional psychiatrists, my perception is that they were going to teach me about the psychobiology of alcoholism. That was missing. So I went back as a volunteer to the same hospital and was given the opportunity to talk to some new patients on psychobiology of alcoholism, which really focused on brain, psychology and behaviour, and obviously stress and your inability to deal with certain environmental or emotional factors. I remember talking to 5 or 6 patients one day, and after my short, very amateur presentation of this information, everyone applauded. And I thought, the sense of well-being I got from that myself was good medicine. And when I felt this, I knew then that I'd found my love, good intention, good reward and feeling, sense of love and purpose. And I decided that I was going to do a U-turn in my life, and I had to help other alcoholics, because helping other alcoholics was helping me. So I started to take this package, and I started working in 1 or 2 residential rehabs. To eventually, I was offered a job with the Priory Hospital medical group here in the UK, which I greatly accepted. And 1 or 2 other social jobs I had with alcohol. I used to go to the prisons in Scotland and teach the psychobiology to certain prisoners and stuff like that. And I opened the first rehab in 2005 in Scotland. But very quickly, as my recovery was progressing, I felt more confident to go out and see the big wide world. So I moved to London, and I pursued a career in London, which has now led to where I'm at today. And it's took me all over the world and experienced life the way life should be experienced, with clarity and joy, and having the ability to deal with moments that are more tough in life, which I've got. We can deal with whatever life throws at me now.
Amazing, and having such a greater impact in the world, and ultimately that's what you and I want to help
these other alcoholics gave me a little round of applause. That was the moment I knew that helping others has to be the obvious path for me.
I genuinely feel like I was struck by lightning when I discovered fundamentally helping people. Let's pause just for a brief moment. I just want to share with you some of the heartfelt feedback from our incredible Complete Control community members. Listen to this.
I don't know how I signed up. I think I just got an ad on Instagram and just got a whim, just hit the button and did a call and then signed up and didn't really consciously think much about it. Then after that, I was like, what did I just sign up for? Wait a second here. Like, far exceeded my expectations. I'm usually extremely skeptical, so I don't know how I even signed up in the first place, but whatever it was. So it's just amazing how, like, the transformation that I've seen, and even the drinking part is just kind of it was the Achilles heel, but it's kind of just the superficial problem. And it's like, once I kind of clear that up, there's so much more possibility. And the exploration discussions with Gary, with Candace have just been so powerful, and they both kind of focus on a different area. And then with Glenn kind of looking at my data, and with my cohorts or classmates, or, it's just been everything has just been so powerful and kind of supportive of, completing the whole picture of how I do this. So just really grateful and also just feel more grateful, and not only just for all of you, but just in life in general. It's just a little bit more clarity and peace and calm and so forth. So
I am incredibly grateful for this entire program, everybody on this call, and everything that we were able to experience. I think that it delivered more than I expected. Honestly, I like I've said before, I've done a couple of challenges and different things, and I think that this, beyond examining my relationship with alcohol and making, I think, pretty good strides in staying alcohol free, I think it taught me a ton about myself and how to examine my habits and my thoughts, and there was kind of patterns and ways to approach the things that worried me the most in this experience have just been invaluable. I think I'm leaving feeling stronger in general, more self-aware in general, and just really more anchored in who I want to be and what my values are, and how I can, take better steps to achieve those. So it's been fantastic for me. And again, our team, I really appreciate all the feedback and support from every single person on this call, but my cohort as well. It's been great.
So I love everybody that I've met here. I've loved the program. I am not an emotional person like this, but this has changed my life. It has given me a life. And there's other things I need to do too. But I don't have to do alcohol anymore. So thank you.
It's been an amazing journey, and I appreciate the professionalism. Whenever I feel the stress, there's something that I can go back to everybody, and the sharing from everybody, and the professionalism of the program. So I loved it, and I've grown a lot. So, ups and kisses.
One word is transformational. That's a word that's been bandied about for decades, but in this, it is absolutely accurate. If I was to use one word, this was a great investment. It's not self-help, it's self-realization. It's super powerful, but it exceeded my expectations. Or maybe it was Sharon who said that. Or maybe I'm exceeding my expectations, and I like that.
The program has been I'm hugely grateful for the program. I think the journey for myself has been amazing. I remember telling, I don't know if it was Candace or Gary, the first 3 or 4 weeks of the program, I was like, I can't stop thinking about not drinking. It's in my head. Every day I'm thinking about not drinking. And it's like now I'm not even thinking it. It's just like my life has sort of stepped on. I'm excited about the future. Things are looking good.
I just love sharing the things people are saying about our complete control program. Okay, let's get back into the episode. Tell me a bit about how, you've grown that. There are 4 in Scotland now, but how that journey of owning rehab, the information that you were learning back then in the Mitchell Library, how has that progressed over time? How has it changed since 2005?
Yeah, well, look, I think from a science perspective, it's not changed that much until quite recently, because a lot of my innovation, I always try to be, I'm always out in the world looking for innovation, to what can help an alcoholic, anything new. And there have been a few things popped up here and there during the course of my 23 years in recovery, but nothing it's scientifically validated until lately, where the research is coming from psychedelic psychotherapy is shown to be very, very encouraging. In fact, so encouraging, it's science that I never thought I would see in my lifetime is available now. So I think, that's something else that I'm now beginning to pursue. So the concept, the scientific research, there's been nothing in 23 years that's convinced me. Now, I've landed on and tried a few things of, nutrition, which is obviously very, very important to anybody's brain and bodily functions. I've tried virtual reality programs, heart rate variability. I mean, these are all aids. It does help, absolutely, but none of them are really kind of scientifically validated to really help an alcohol-dependent person as much as the science is coming from the use of psychedelics. And of course, it's nothing really new, because the founder of the Alcoholics Anonymous, Bill Wilson, he'd stopped drinking, but was still very depressed, very irritable, and very anxious, until he actually experienced some psychedelic LSD therapy.
Well, hang on one second, John. One second, just for everyone who doesn't know that little piece there. I mean, this is the co-founder of AA who, discovered how impactful LSD could be, and from his own perspective, and became an advocate of. But of course, back then in the day, the whole community of AA couldn't believe it, right? Here was this guy talking about drugs and legal substances, effectively got kicked out, really, and shamed for being, And here we are doing full circle, like 50, 60 years later.
How
much pain could we have helped with?
Yeah. Well, sometimes I feel as if I'm in Bill Wilson's footsteps, because the remarkable program I found was the NAD intravenous program, which really is the biological form of B3 niacin. So Bill Wilson worked with Dr. Abraham Hoffa, and it was on megadose B3 niacin, which really helped him more than anything else, more on the psychedelic experiences I had. I think, but I mean, we can make sense of how the psychedelics help people today. I mean, scientifically, we can explain that, and that's the science that's shown, and that's very encouraging.
Super. So let's touch on the psychedelics in a bit. So you are in the process of, about to, or have, or all of the above, depending on when this podcast comes out, pioneered one of the first psychedelic therapy centres in Scotland. Would you like to tell us a bit more about that, John?
Yes, I mean, I'm just in the process of getting this clinic registered here in Scotland by the regulators that we have here in Scotland. It can only be weeks away, but it's Scotland's first psychedelic day clinic, where we're going to be firstly using ketamine-assisted psychotherapy. The reason we're using ketamine, it's very effective on treatment-resistant depression, and alcoholism. It responds to it really quite well. So again, from a scientific point of view, if you have a ketamine program, you can have a 87% chance of being sober 6 months after that than anything else. So I'm just trying to get ahead of the game.
Yeah.
And I don't want to be making any same mistakes as I did years ago when I discovered the NAD IV program in Mexico. I mean, that's one of my greatest achievements, I would say, is, having discovered what NAD was and how an alcoholic is completely deficient in that molecule. And by replenishing that, how that can make such a difference of helping people with the same symptoms that Bill Wilson, the founder of AA, experienced even. And that's where I'm really kind of at today. It's really promoting the NAD and offering it to people where they don't have to come to a clinic.
Tell me about NAD. I've got a little vial here, and for those on YouTube, here's one I prepared earlier, as they say in Blue Peter. So got one of these little things here along with the vial. So tell us about NAD plus.
Yeah, NAD plus is an abbreviated little word. Its proper name is nicotinamide adenine dinucleotide. Bit of a mouthful for even me. I've said it that many times through the years. Now, let me tell you, firstly, NAD is the biological active form of B3 niacin. Now, niacin is a vital vitamin that everybody must have. But these days it's in bread and everything else. If you become deficient in B3 niacin, you become deficient in NAD, and that can lead to literally a fatal disease called pellagra. Now, pellagra, the symptoms of pellagra mimic the same symptoms which a chronic alcoholic has, because the chronic alcoholic is also B3 niacin deficient and NAD deficient. That disease is called the 4 Ds because it's dermatitis, diarrhea, dementia, and death. So NAD is a molecule in the body that helps transfer the energy from food we eat to the brain and the rest of the body. And so it's absolutely as important as oxygen, NAD. Now, MD who drinks regular will end up having a deficiency in NAD. If you're drinking regular and you're below the age of, say, 35, you don't really notice it that much. But after the age of 35, you're probably not drinking any more than you did when you were 23 or 24. But the effects of the drinking alcohol will be much worse because as we age, the body produces less and less NAD. Now, NAD is vital in metabolizing the poisonous chemicals that alcohol produces in the body. So you can drink quite a lot when you're young because your body is making a lot of NAD and it metabolizes the poisonous acetaldehyde and acetate and other chemicals out the body very quickly. But after the age of 35 years old, and every human being, the body starts to make less and less NAD, so there's less available to deal with the metabolism of the poisonous effects of alcoholism. Hence, the hangovers, the hair of the dogs, and blah, blah, blah,
Just get worse and worse and worse.
From a brain function point of view, NAD is very, very important because NAD is known these days to be a neurotransmitter, but it's also very much in the way of neuroprotection. from brain cells. NAD helps prevent destruction and death of certain brain cells, which are not the big heavy-duty working cells, but the little galgally astrolite cells that support the bigger cells. NAD really protects them. So NAD is absolutely vital for the brain also. So, when I was at one of the conferences, because normally I find myself in the States more or less every year at certain conferences, and way back in 2009, I believe, 2010, I came across a conference in LA. Dr. Hyla Cass, a well-respected LA psychiatrist who has a speciality in nutrition and addiction. And so Hyla started to tell me about this new treatment that was being offered in a clinic in Mexico, and it was having a dramatic effect on alcoholics. So I paid attention and very quickly arranged a visit. So I came back to London, and then a few weeks later, I had to drive to go back. So Dr. Cass at Hyla escorted me across the border, and we spent a week in Tijuana, where we visited quite a famous clinic at that time called the HIT Clinic. Now, they were doing this IV protocol on alcoholics, and it was having remarkable results. Now, I went there on a Monday and I seen 4 alcoholic people, 2 males and 2 females. All the people were in their early 40s. Now, these were people that I seen arrive at the clinic on day 1, where they had to have a drink before they came because they needed to stem the withdrawals. Now, I monitored these people with my own observations over the course of that week. Now, what I would normally say, I seen the very opposite. Normally, I would say a 10-day benzopine gradual reduction with some zopiclone sleeping tablets to help people sleep. Now, these clients were just the same severely dependent people. But on day 2, after having these IV infusions, by day 3, there were no benzopines. They were sleeping like babies. The shakes were gone. They were talking with absolute clarity and focus. And I thought, how can this be? I mean, so they were saying to the doctor, we don't want any more drugs. We're only rehabbing our treatment centre, but I need more. I was absolutely blown by this. So after my week there, and just watching the physical change that appeared in front of my eyes so quick with these people, because they came in looking like shambles. By day 4, day 5, these people were completely regenerated and looking completely 15, 20 years young in some cases, I would say. So it seemed to reverse the whole withdrawal experience very rapidly. So it was like a rapid detox. But all the other bonuses that I could see and what people were trying to explain to me, I didn't realise what these were, because that was my first time experiencing this NAD. So that was a long time ago. Obviously, a better understanding of how NAD works to give you these benefits anyway these days. So I decided that's it. I must bring this to the whole of the UK. So when I came back, I arranged to start doing this NAD here in London. I had a clinic called the OYNB Clinic, and I started offering NAD primarily as an accelerated alcohol detox process. And that was the aim for it, only alcohol only. But in 2013, a scientist called David Sinclair let the world know that he'd reversed the aging process in mammals using NAD coenzyme. That hit the world's media, and the world became interested in NAD for other reasons than alcohol. Now, So it became an anti-aging fad. I'm not talking or promoting this NAD product in the way of anti-aging or anything like that. I'm promoting it. If you're thinking it, you want to have a go, cut and drink out, but when you do, after a day or two, you feel a bit irritable, you feel a bit discontent, things ain't quite right. I think the NAD from that point of view could be very, very helpful. In fact, I know for a fact it can be very helpful.
Yeah.
Even if you want to continue and you don't wish to choose a period of abstinence, NAD can be absolutely vital in the way of assisting regular heavy drinking, absolutely. So I was treating people for just general wellness, anti-aging, and even some more serious diseases like Parkinson's, Alzheimer's, chronic fatigues, just a whole complex, all-round treatment for NAD just makes everything a lot better. And, at that time, I was the only clinic in Europe where you could experience the benefits of NAD. I had people coming from all countries, from all corners of the world, because at the time, there was only maybe 4 or 5 clinics worldwide where you could experience NAD. I was one of them. These days, when you visit the search engines, NADs, it's all over the place now. Of course, these 3+ers, a lot of people try them and stuff like that. So it's really kind of mushroomed into something big. But like I say, what's best in relation to alcoholism, and scientifically, for very obvious scientific reasons, anybody who is a heavy drinker is NAD deficient. And if you're NAD deficient, you have a lot of symptoms that we and you spoke about.
Yep. So tell me about NAD plus at home, because, tell me about the...
NAD, well, this was something that occurred to me at the start of the pandemic. Normally, the service I provided, you'd have to come to the in-house clinic to receive an IV infusion. Now, during that COVID period, for obvious reasons, no one could visit the clinic. So that gave me the opportunity to sort of look at my experience with NAD. Now, through the years, what I've certainly learned is this, that never think or believe that the more NAD, the better. That's not the case. Now, through my years of clinical observations, I've had to change protocols here and there according to the condition we're trying to treat and my experience with it. So I believe that NAD, to get the best benefits from NAD, it's best to take smaller doses but more frequently, rather than having a bit massive dose once or twice a year, which is costing between £600 to £800 per infusion.
Yeah.
And you have to commit a whole day to it, because an IV takes a whole day away. So I started to experiment with a lot of my clients during the pandemic, where we would use the subcutaneous NAD kit. It's a 1,000 milligram of NAD, which is equivalent to maybe 2 or at least maybe even 4 IV infusion. And I sat back and I had a year or two of feedback coming in for regular subcutaneous users, which was even better than the IV. So,
hang on. So this is 1,000 milligram per 25 mil?
Yes.
Okay. So per 25 mil that you do, it's 1,000 milligram. And that is 4 times what you would get on an IV drip.
Well, these days, people are using between 500 milligram to 1,000. Personally, I would never use 1,000 again. It's far, far too much. Now, but some clinics are offering an IV of 250 milligram of NAD. Now, it's still very costly because a clinic has costs. So it can be, say, £500 for a 250 milligram of NAD, which in that vial that you have, that can be like equivalent to 4 IV infusions, or certainly 2 IV infusions at a 500 milligram per infusion. So in that vial, the new recommendations in the new protocol that I have designed is 50 milligram pure NAD, subcutaneous, easy, do-it-yourself at home, 20 shots, using the 1,000 milligram over a period of time. Subcutaneous. And all the clients that previous have been coming to me loyally for years are now supporting the subcutaneous use rather than the IV. They love it, and the benefits are even better. So that's where I'm at with the NAD story of my life now. And, you know, and that's why you met in Panama, because I believe that your client group and our philosophy in life is to try and help another person with alcohol dependency or even alcohol problems. I think NAD has to be seriously considered.
Yeah.
So it could be part of a package.
I mean, I haven't had that severe relationship with alcohol. I prevented it before, I guess. I didn't get into all of that, but like you, mission driven, trying to make a big impact, constantly learning, scouring. I'm not so luxurious as you, flying all over the world yet to see these conferences, but I spend an awful lot of time on Google and listening to science-based podcasts and things like that to try and look at what tools are going to make an impact here and what's going to go. So I'm so glad to have met you, and I know this is the beginning of a friendship and a beginning of collaboration, and the things that we're doing together, I think we're super aligned.
Yes.
There's a few pioneering things you're up to. So you've got the NAD Plus at home, which is a fantastic organization. Just to mention, if you are interested in trying NAD Plus, it's something you can get a packet which gives you the full 20. You do have to use a syringe, and it's just subcutaneous, so it's quite easy to do. I've been doing it, just so you know, if you're watching YouTube, I'm holding it up right now, the package, and we'll continue to do it. Definitely recommend it if you're either trying to curb your drinking, reduce drinking, stop drinking for a period. It's going to help you remove those withdrawal symptoms or reduce them. It's going to help you heal from the damage done by alcohol more quickly. It's going to curb some of those cravings. Like John is being a real pioneer here, and that's why I'm excited to talk about that. The other things, you're also up to some other exciting things. So we touched on the psychedelic center, which is something I'm very passionate about, and going more into talking about psychedelics on this podcast soon. But you've also been, and I met the guys who are looking at this VR technology. It's another thing that we both share, we're excited about. So this is also something that you're looking at offering or currently are offering.
I mean, we are. As part of the psychedelic, a Euless clinic that we're building here in Scotland, that there'll be an opportunity for people to experience non-drunk psychedelic states. And digital medicine and digital psychedelic experiences it's really an area of interest for me. So we have robotic light, where we work with a company called Eurovisor, who are a fantastic company who's developed robotic light. I'll signpost you to their platform. And I met an interesting company led by a guy called Sean, London-based company, who's developed a virtual reality experience called, and when I first tried that, I said to Sean, I said, you know what? I said, this is like digital MDMA to me, because it does provoke a sense of presence, a sense of awe. That is an emotional, deep heart, positive emotional effect by this experience. So there's other means to experience the benefits of a psychedelic nature. I'd like to say the sign that psychedelics are offering mental health, alcoholism, addiction is science that I'd never expected to see in my lifetime. I just hope the authorities in this country wake up to that. In fact, next week I'm at a specialist event run by the Scottish Association of Psychedelics, headed by Dr. Ada Ross, and I'm spending the whole day in the Scottish Parliament building with Scottish MPs and other academics and general public exploring the opportunities of psychedelic medicine here in Scotland.
And I think, you know, what this conversation, it shows me I'm on the right path. It shows me that we're doing similar things. We're talking about the similar stuff to help people, and we're using those tools from a more preventative perspective. But these tools work throughout the whole journey. Wherever you are, it's similar tools that are helping people to have a better relationship with themselves, better version of themselves. So
exactly,
alcohol is, you know, isn't the dominant feature.
Yes, exactly. Just like you said, I mean, we're discussing two main factors here in recovery, health and well-being: psychedelic medicine and NAD. Like we discussed, Bill Wilson, the founder of NAD, Alcoholics Anonymous, was speaking like now generations ago. And so nothing's new, really. Nothing's new. Just
know that's new, but we're bringing it. We're using our energy and our force to bring it into more people than certainly have known about it or were able to. It's certainly new to people who'll be listening onto this podcast. I'm sure of that. But yeah, you're right. It's crazy. I mean, if it was an organization, whoever it was who didn't let that information come out in the 1960s should definitely be fired. So if you want to get some NAD+, you can use code OYNB30 for 30% discount to get NAD+. They'll send you out a lovely package. So go to nadplusathome.com, NAD, all written out, NAD plus PLUS at home.com. Type in code, capital letters, OYNB30. You get 30% discount on it. I think it's around about 300 quid, something like that. So with your discount, it will be even less, £350. There you go. And that gets you your full 1,000 milligram. I mean, for some people, my wife, she's like, I'm never going to inject myself. So it's a little bit harder for her. But for me, I wanted to see all the benefits and definitely wanted to test it out. So it's worth going through that. So, John, it's been such a super pleasure to have you on the podcast. Thank you. The other thing to mention is Eulis, which the website is eulis.com.
EULES clinics.com. EulisClinics.com.
And it's not currently taking people in for psychedelic therapy, but you're weeks away.
Well, hopefully weeks away. We'll obviously let you know when we're officially opened.
I know some people.
In fact, we'd like to invite you to the launch. We'll have a launch, and I'd like you
to do that. Love to come and do that. Thank you, John. Nice excuse to get some plane tickets home and see family as well. Thanks so much for coming on the podcast and sharing your story. Well, an amazing story, John, and I'm so glad. I'm honored to have you on the podcast, and totally, really glad, happy, grateful to be able to share your message and the things that you're doing. So, let's keep going together.